Right. Hello, mate. Right.
Hello.
So, do you want to kick off giving us your name and your age, please?
Absolutely. I'm Ben Eckton. I'm 28.
Excellent. And what are you known as within the group? What's your role or your nickname?
So my nickname is the Pack Horse. I was seen on Benji's Bob just recently. I carried no shit 8 liters of water on leg two for him. It's an absolute miracle that he didn't drop me, to be honest. But yeah, known as the Pack Horse.
I didn't know you carried that much water. That's absolutely incredible.
Well, the thing is, we were in the car park in Threcold, right, and we were like dishing kit out the start. It's like who needs stuff carried, and then I just took the water, and then the water, no more water came out, and no one took it. So I was like, oh fuck it, I'll put it in my. I was like, let's just put it in mine, and I ended up just carrying all of it. But yeah, I was
That's a lot.
hanging out,
That's a lot of weight.
going,
That's a lot of weight. I
going up
like.
Clough, absolutely hanging out, mate.
Aye, that's not a shallow incline, is it?
Nah.
So, what events are you currently training for, or what goals have you got that you're moving towards at the moment?
Yeah, so my A race for I guess for the season, although my seasons are a little bit offset, is the Arc of Attrition in January 2025. So that's the kind of the goal race I'm aiming for. I did it in January just gone, and like had not a very good race, and it was self-induced. It was like nutrition related, which I feel afflicts a lot of people. So I'm aiming to just get a bit fitter, get a bit more pedigree in my legs, properly nail my nutrition down, and then try and knock a few hours off my time come January 25. So that's my A race, and then yeah, I did Benji's Bob with him a few weeks ago, which was that was kind of a big goal to go and support. That was an amazing, amazing day out. It was just really special to share that with him. Obviously, got the double next year, which will be even more special. And then apart from that, I've just got a few kind of fun runs like littered through the year, like a couple of trail races. Like I'm racing the Peak District this weekend, and then me and a few from Poles and Crocs are going to go and do the Joe Brown round, which is like a new rab round they put up in Wales sometime in August, I think. So those are like the fun ones, and then Arc is a main one.
Awesome. In terms of your nutrition, what do you think you're going to do differently for that race next time?
So the start of the arc route is just really, really quick. So like really flat and really runnable. Felt amazing for about the first 15 miles. And it meant when I met my other half who was like crewing me on the race, I wasn't really taking many solids in early on. It's like when my stomach was absolutely fine, I was just kind of getting the easy bits down, like a bit of watermelon, a bit of Coke, etc. And then by the time I got round to halfway, which was sort of just over a marathon in, I was in absolute bobbins with like cramp and stuff like that. And at that point, my stomach started shriveling up and I couldn't get solids down. So I think to prevent that, probably just take another 5 or 10 minutes at each crew point, get some proper solid food on that's got a good mixture of carbs, fats, and protein in, and hopefully stave off cramp for as long as possible because it was 100% nutrition related in Jan. I managed to get around and I got around in like an okay time, but I had my A race and my B race and I got nowhere near them. So I kind of just want to put the nail in the coffin for it and then crack on.
Yeah, it's part of the process, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm very new to the process myself. So like, it's all just learning.
Nice one. Okay, what's your favorite route of fell?
So I think we probably got paired for the right reasons because my favourite fell is also Helvellyn. Kind of globally, any mountain that I've been up, I don't think it compares. Love going and doing that Helvellyn horseshoes, like up Striding Edge, down Swirl Edge, or like one of the two. Just that little bit of exposure just reminds you you're alive. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Beautiful. You know what? I've not actually done that horseshoe, so
Have you not?
probably want to
Next
get
time,
on. I reckon.
next time we're in the lakes, mate.
Yeah.
Like jumping down the bad step in winter. That's what it's about. Yeah, I'd probably say that. But anywhere in and around Helvellyn, like I said, that route up from Glenridding's really nice, up Sticks Cross and stuff. That's really, really nice as well. Just a beautiful kind of area to be around, I think.
Yeah, for definite, for definite. Okay, so in terms of achievements, what would you say was your personal best or your most significant milestone?
Yeah, there's been a few, to be fair. There's been a few work related ones, and I think so. The Arc in Jan was like the longest I'd ever run before, and I was really proud to get around that. But I think my proudest moment to date was probably finishing uni. So neither my grandma or my granddad nor my mum and dad went to uni. So being there on graduation day and them seeing me get my diploma and like them seeing me pass out and going for like beers and stuff afterwards, that was just a really special moment. And it was yeah, that was epic. I just felt really proud, and they were proud of me, which was yeah, just really special to share with them.
That's awesome. It's just an undertaking, isn't it? It's not even just a year or so. It's a hell of an achievement to get through all of that successfully.
Yeah, yeah, and I was quite busy with playing sport and stuff at uni as well, and then I was kind of flanking myself academically to try and get as good a grade as I possibly could. I ended up doing pretty well in my final year, so that was just kind of icing on the cake to pass and pass well, and also be playing sport all the way through and have mum and dad there. That was pretty special. Yeah.
Incredible. For you then, why poles and Crocs? What was your personal reason for joining, and what does the group mean to you?
So compared to some of the guys and girl in the group, I'd probably say I was quite late coming to it. So I met Leon, who's now my coach and one of my closest friends, through training effectively. So he's my coach. He'd been writing my programs for a while, and I just got added to this random group, and it was it was an experience for the first few days. Just people would absolutely sprayed each other, and I was like, "What's going on here?" And then you go out for a run with the guys or the girl, and for me, it's just like a weight lifted. We talk about it all, just getting out on the fells, getting out in the mountains, just away from your regular routine. And it's funny how after your first incline, where your heart rate's at about 190, and then you're giving it beans downhill, you haven't brought enough food or water with you, and you're absolutely hanging out. That's when you start opening up to people, and you start talking about random stuff. You get those invasive thoughts, and it's like, I need to talk about this now. And the group's just so welcoming and so open. And even though we take the mick out of each other, and the groups, it can be hilarious at times. Like when we're out and out in like Edale or the lakes or North Wales or wherever, it's just a really special place to kind of lighten your load a little bit. I guess that's probably what it means to me.
Yeah, it's beautiful in that respect. And from the messages that fly back and forth, you wouldn't think it, but when you get out with them, it's a completely different experience, isn't it? It's a
Yeah,
really nice group.
100%.
Love that. Absolutely outstanding answer. Right, mental health check-in then. So how do you take care of your mental health daily?
So, being frank, I'm not very good at it, and I'll like be open and say that. I'm working quite a busy job at the moment. I don't think that's unique to anyone in the group. Everyone's super busy. But for me, having training sessions penciled in and hitting the training sessions and looking back on a day and saying that day was like 100% complete, like no excuses, that really helps with my mental health. And I think especially the last year or two, I think really prioritizing myself in and around that. So if I've got, for example, training sessions, or if I've said that I'm going to do something for a friend or for a relative, just going and doing that thing makes me feel really happy, gives me a sense of fulfillment. I think when the storm clouds do roll in, they do roll in, like I wouldn't say frequently, but as they do for everyone, they do roll in every so often. I think for me, I get very like up in my head and out of my body, and I can be doing a task at work, and my mind is just elsewhere, like I'm just thinking about something else. So I think coming back after a busy day and just sitting down and just writing out like what's going on in my head, like what are those peals of thunder that are in the storm clouds, like what is actually bothering me, and then actually looking at it on a page and going, well, I can't actually affect any of that, or I can't, that's just an invasive thought, or that can be dealt with on another day. That kind of really helps me. I wouldn't necessarily call it journaling because it's more ad hoc than that, but I think that really helps. And then I think running is a massive part of that. So especially going out in the countryside or out in the fells, all you're thinking about is like water, food, foot placement, and your friends. If you're out in a group, or like if you're by yourself, that's all those three things you're thinking about, and that forces you to be kind of really present. And like I said, I get very up in my head and out of my body. I feel like running really kind of grounds me, and I can just focus on those three things for anywhere between like half an hour and like a set of hours. And that just really helps me clear all those clouds out, and realize that I'm actually just a fucking tiny cog. Didn't mean to swear. I don't. Is this podcast PG or is it?
I had no idea. I think it's out natural, so
I've ruined it.
I think
Venus can beep it out.
Yeah.
And it just clears those clouds out, and it just allows you to kind of be present and realize you're a tiny cog, and that realistically your problems aren't as big as you thought they were.
That's always the case, isn't it? But when you're in the thick of it, they'll look like the biggest thing you've ever encountered in your life. So you've kind of, I don't know if you've covered it then, touching on coping strategies. That is there anything additional to what you've just mentioned there in terms of your coping strategies?
Yeah, I mean, it's something we talked about on the group the other night, wasn't it? Is should your other half be your therapist, or should they just be someone to talk to, or do you keep kind of your personal problems separate? And I think for me, it was a big turning stone in the last sort of few years was just opening up to my other half, not necessarily using her as like as a therapist by any stretch of the imagination, but actually just properly communicating and saying like, I'm just feeling a bit naff today. I don't think it's anything to do with you. I don't think it's anything to do with this situation. It's just, this is how I feel right now. And then just working through it together. I think that's really healthy. For me personally, it's going to be different for other people, right? But for me personally, that really helped. And I was always a person who tried to compartmentalize before, and now I don't compartmentalize. I do a little bit, but I don't compartmentalize completely. And that's really helped. And then just putting myself out there with groups like Poles and Crocs, and actually like reaching out to people and asking if they're okay, just having phone calls with people. Like I had a phone call with one of my like really close mates. He's not in Poles and Crocs, he's completely separate. And like I just had a 40-minute phone call with him this afternoon because he's just gone through a really nasty breakup, and I was like, how are you doing? And then he asked me vice versa, and you just leave the call feeling a million times better. And like I really think that communication is like a really strong coping strategy for me personally, in and around all that sort of daily stuff that I talked about before.
Yeah, I think that's dead right. The group dynamic effectively requires that goes both ways. So you're checking in on other people, not just having people checking in on you. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Is that reciprocal communication, I think?
Yeah, that's something I'm not great at, but you know, can always be better and continue to work on things. But yeah, definitely, it's a major, big part of that group. So that kind of leads into probably covers to some extent support systems. So how's the group help with your mental well-being?
Yeah, and yeah, I think it is just that. It's going out on the fells with the lads and girl, and getting out, doing some exercise, being present on the fells, and then just opening up about various bits that are going on in your life. It's the really strong support network. And I think for me, it's the indicative thing was like I've run like ultras up in the Lake District, and I had lads, including one of our mates who we lost really recently to suicide, just turn up having not met me and like come and support me on the ultra. And that is the sort of support network that we have. They just rock up at a checkpoint, and then they're all smiles. They give you a bit of stick for looking like you've just been risen from the dead, and then you crack on. And it is relentless, but you just feel a million times better, one, sharing, and then two, knowing that you've got those brothers and sister kind of in your court.
Yeah, aye, absolutely. That's what it's all about. And there's multiple examples of different events and different bits and pieces that people have had going on where folks just rock up, never met them before, and go and help them, support them whatever whatever way possible. It's not always turning up and running either, is it?
Yeah,
Not everybody's capable of doing that, but it's just turning up and supporting in whatever capacity you're able.
and yeah, exactly. And for Benji's Bob's a really good example. Like he had guys who didn't run at all, but they were just driving around to every checkpoint with Scran and water and staying in comms and driving people around from the end of a leg where they'd finished to back to their car so they could pick their car up and get back to the checkpoint they were finishing on and all that kind of stuff. It's super important. And then we've got stuff like Edale as well, where that's not really a running event. Like there is a run that we do, but on the Friday night, the Saturday night, and all day on the Saturday, people will just sit down with Venus and do some yoga and drink some tea and just hair blowing in the wind majestically and just kind of talk about life. Do you know what I mean? Me and you are struggling on that account, mate. But
God, mine have blown in the wind.
Yeah, but that's kind of that's really valuable, I think.
Absolutely. So we might have covered some of this mindfulness moments. So do you have any practices or routines to stay mindful and present? I think you've possibly touched upon it, but if there's anything else that you can think of.
Yeah, I think that kind of when the storm clouds roll in, just kind of writing a page of A5 at the end of the day and just actually looking at it is probably the only one that I do. But like I'll put my hand up and say I'm not particularly good at it. Life just overtakes me sometimes, and I feel like I'm on a bit of a treadmill, and it takes something not going wrong, but it getting quite bad for me to actually commit to doing that. So for me, it's definitely a work on point to go away and try and do that more regularly because I know that it works. But it's just interesting how human psychology works, isn't it? Like, something helps, but your body doesn't want you to do it because it's like a little bit of extra effort.
Yeah.
That's what the group is so good for, is that you see so many inspiring people going out and doing stuff. It's like, or maybe me writing a A5 is nothing. And then maybe, you get to a training session, like, oh God, I don't want to go and do that. But you see people posting up and it's just like, well, I'm going to go and do that now because otherwise I'm like not I'm not on the level of the other people who are in the group. And yeah, it's good. It's good to kind of spur you on and also support you at the same time.
Yeah, I think the thing with mindfulness practices as well is they're there to make you feel better, not to beat yourself up over if you don't do them.
Yeah.
You can, like being task focused, you can totally get into that space of I have not done that today and I should have done that today and now I've failed.
Yeah. And that snowballing thing we were talking about, wasn't it? Like, I completely agree. You shouldn't stuff that's net positive shouldn't snowball net negative.
Yeah.
But like I'm a massive list maker as well, same as you. So I think it's definitely one to work on. I'll put my hand up and say that I'm pretty rubbish at it.
Yeah. Always moving forward, mate. What would your advice be to others then with respect to anybody that's struggling with their mental health or just advice generally in terms of everything that you've covered?
So I think a piece of advice that I would probably say is that the kind of boom and bust of being happy and then being a bit flat is completely normal. So like I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about how being flat or being a bit depressed or being very depressed and anywhere beyond that, I probably will use the word stigmatized because that is probably the word to describe it. It stigmatizes an illness, but nobody talks about being happy, elated, jubilant, and everything beyond that as an illness, if that makes sense. But they're both just mental states. They're both just human emotions that we feel all the time. And that natural boom and bust of happy and a flat is normal. So if you're in one of those flat kind of stages, it's probably time to just check in with yourself and check in with your friends and just kind of get out of your head like I do and just practice your mindful moments, recognize that your mental health isn't amazing and be able to talk to people. I know that's probably difficult for people who are really struggling, but like we said before, and like we said in this one, it's just starting. That's the thing. It's recognizing that this is a boom and bust cycle, and like your bust isn't going to be forever, even though it feels like it might be. Just communicate, and like guaranteed someone is going through exactly the same thing at the same time, and you'll get onto that cycle of being happy again. It's just all you need to experience both to value both. Yeah,
This too shall pass.
this too shall pass, indeed.
Okay, so the biggie here, influential reads. What books have shaped your understanding of life the most?
So I don't like using the word life changing for books, because I think that's quite dramatic. But life affirming is probably the best way to put it. I read a book called Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. So it's basically, it reads like a fiction novel, but it is factual. And it's basically a guy called Mitch Albom, funny old thing, who he went to university in America, like we'll call it Harvard, for example. I'm not sure if it is Harvard. And he had a professor when he was at university during probably one of the biggest cultural revolutions in American history, which was kind of from the 1960s through to the 1980s, 1990s. That's like a massive period of change in America, with like civil rights movement, Woodstock, all that kind of stuff. And he had a professor during that period who he got really close with. They went out for dinner. He studied kind of philosophy and psychoanalysis, so like a really interesting blend. And then Mitch, who was a student, left university really full of life and saying, I'm going to go out and I'm going to absolutely smash life. Got into writing and advertising, and then in the 90s, with like the dot-com boom, etc., he got massively into making money. And his reason for living was to go up the pay scales. And he thought, if I get more money, if I have the next job, the next car, land the next deal, I'll be happier and happier and happier. Anyway, he's wandering through where he lives, and he bumps into his old professor again. And his old professor's in a wheelchair, and they get chatting. And his professor says, like, Mitch, I'm dying. And he goes, what do you mean you're dying? And he said, yeah, I've got a really bad disease. Can't remember exactly what it was, but it's degenerative, and I've only got X amount of time to live. And basically what happens over the period of the rest of the professor's life, as he's slowly deteriorating, Mitch goes round to his house and they have dinner like he used to at university. And they basically break the book out into chapters. And it's basically the professor's guide to living. And for every chapter, they describe, this is how you deal with emotion. This is how you deal with guilt. This is how you deal with expectation. This is how you deal with the death of someone. This is how you deal with that. So, and he goes all the way through to the end. And the final chapter is, this is how you deal with death. And then the professor dies. And effectively, Mitch has this revolution where he's like, the way that I'm living is not sustainable. It's not who I am. I'm not who I was at university. And then he fundamentally changes the way that he looks at life because of it. I would recommend reading it to anyone, because it's really revolutionized the way that I think about life, I would say, and what I value. And I think I knew that I valued the things already, but I think it was just a bit buried under the surface fuzz and buzz and noise of everyday life, like training, work, relationships, friends. What am I doing this weekend? I kind of knew what my values were, but this really kind of brought them to the surface, and I'm trying to kind of pursue them through the rest of my life.
I'm sold. I'll be reading that. That sounds incredible.
And it's only like 150 pages as well, mate. So for me and you, Luddites, quite an easy read.
I might get through that in a month or 5.
Yeah.
That's amazing, right? I think we've wrapped up all the questions there. So that was incredible.
Nice chatting to you, mate.
Awesome.